Welcome back to the Mind Shelf, where we dive deep into the most powerful concepts that can transform your mental landscape and elevate your life. I'm thrilled to have you here as we explore one of the most crucial skills you can develop: the ability to respond rather than react. This isn't just about managing your emotions, it's about reclaiming your power and creating the life you truly want. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and let's unlock the secrets to emotional mastery together. The critical difference that changes everything. Picture this. Someone cuts you off in traffic, your boss gives you harsh feedback, or a loved one says something that stings. In that split second, you have a choice, but most people don't even realize they have one. They simply react, letting their emotions hijack their behavior and often making situations worse. But what if I told you that mastering the space between stimulus and response is the key to transforming not just individual moments, but your entire life trajectory? Understanding the neuroscience behind your actions. When we react, we're operating from the amygdala, the primitive part of our brain designed for survival. This ancient system processes emotions quickly but doesn't consider long-term consequences or rational thinking. It's focused solely on immediate threats and quick responses. The amygdala floods our system with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, narrowing our thinking and amplifying our emotions. In contrast, when we respond, we engage the prefrontal cortex, the sophisticated area of our brain associated with decision-making, social behavior, and executive function. This part allows us to weigh options, consider consequences, and make choices based on reasoning rather than pure emotion. Training your mind to respond rather than react literally means strengthening the neural pathways between your brain's thinking and feeling parts. It's like building a bridge between your emotional center and your wisdom center, allowing them to work together instead of against each other. The anatomy of a reaction. Reactions share several characteristics that make them problematic. Immediate and automatic, no pause for consideration. Emotionally driven, dominated by feelings rather than logic. Often aggressive, tend to escalate rather than resolve situations. Regret-inducing, frequently lead to outcomes we wish we could undo. Survival-focused, aimed at protecting the ego rather than solving problems. When you react, you're essentially letting your past experiences, biases, and unconscious patterns run the show. You become a prisoner of your conditioning rather than the author of your choices. The power of a conscious response. Responses, on the other hand, are characterized by thoughtful consideration, taking time to process the situation, alignment with values, choices that reflect who you want to be, solution-oriented, focused on resolving rather than escalating, emotionally intelligent, acknowledging feelings without being controlled by them, future-focused, considering long-term consequences and relationships. A response is a well-thought-out action that may result in a positive outcome. When you respond, you're operating from your highest self, the part of you that's wise, compassionate, and strategic. The science of emotional regulation. Research in neuroscience and psychology has revealed fascinating insights about how we can train our minds to respond more effectively. Mindfulness-based interventions have been shown to increase response latency, the psychological term for the time between stimulus and reaction. This increased pause time is literally the space where transformation happens. The role of mindfulness in response training. Mindfulness involves non-judgmental attention to present-moment experience. In therapeutic applications, mindfulness interventions promote increased tolerance of negative emotions and improved overall well-being. But how does this work at the neural level? Mindfulness training enhances focused attention, supported by the anterior cingulate cortex and lateral prefrontal cortex. These brain regions work together to promote stable recruitment of what researchers call a non-conceptual sensory pathway, essentially an alternative route to processing difficult emotions that doesn't rely on our usual cognitive stories and reactions. Studies have shown that mindfulness meditation reduces cognitive rigidity and the tendency to be blinded by past experience. This means you become less likely to automatically respond based on old patterns and more able to see fresh possibilities in each situation. The mindful acceptance advantage. Research has demonstrated that mindful acceptance is associated with reductions in reported pain and negative emotions, as well as reduced amygdala responses to negative stimuli. This isn't about suppressing or avoiding difficult emotions. It's about changing your relationship with them. When you practice mindful acceptance, you're training your brain to observe emotions without immediately acting on them, reduce the intensity of emotional reactions, create space for wise decision-making, break the cycle of emotional reactivity. The framework for transformation, from 2P to 4P. One of the most practical frameworks for shifting from reaction to response is what's called the 2P versus 4P system. The 2P reaction pattern. When we react, we use only 2 Ps. Perceive the stimulus. Proceed with automatic action. This creates no space for conscious choice. It's automated, unconscious, and often destructive. The 4P response pattern. When we respond, we engage 4 Ps. Pause. Create space between stimulus and action. Process, understand what's happening internally and externally. Plan. Consider options and choose the best course of action. Proceed. Take action aligned with your values and goals. This framework gives you a structure to follow even in heated moments. You can use the 4 Ps as a mantra or reminder when you feel emotionally activated. Practical techniques for training your response muscle. 1. The power of the pause. The moment you feel overwhelmed or emotionally charged, take a short break. This simple act can transform a potential overreaction into a measured response. Here's how to make pausing more effective. Physical pause. Step away from the situation, even if just for a moment. Breathing pause. Take 5-10 slow, deep breaths to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Mental pause. Count to 10 or recite a calming phrase. Sensory pause. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch. The more time you spend in the pause, the more space you give your brain to relax and cool down. A stress-free brain allows you to overcome the attack of instant negative emotions and creates fertile ground for moving forward wisely. 2. Emotional labeling and recognition. Research shows that naming your emotions helps shift brain activity from the emotional centers to the rational centers. When you acknowledge what you're feeling, I'm angry, I feel hurt, I'm disappointed, you're literally changing your brain state. Try this process. Name the emotion. I notice I'm feeling frustrated. Locate it in your body. I feel tension in my shoulders and heat in my face. Rate its intensity. This feels like a 7 out of 10. Accept its presence. It's okay that I'm feeling this way. This practice helps your brain realize the emotional state is temporary and reduces the likelihood of being overwhelmed by it. 3. The RAIN technique. RAIN is a powerful mindfulness-based approach for working with difficult emotions. Recognize, become aware of what you're experiencing. Allow. Let the emotion be present without trying to change it. Investigate. Get curious about the emotion with kindness. Non-identification. Remember that you are not your emotions. This technique helps you develop what psychologists call emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish between different emotional states with precision and nuance. 4. Active listening and perspective taking. Before responding to others, practice active listening by giving your full attention to the speaker. This means listening to understand, not to prepare your rebuttal. Asking clarifying questions, reflecting back what you've heard, considering their perspective and motivations. This approach not only helps you respond more thoughtfully, but also makes the other person feel heard and respected, which can diffuse potential conflicts. 5. Values-based decision-making. When faced with a challenging situation, ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? What response would align with my deepest values? How can I act in a way that moves me toward my goals rather than away from them? What would my wisest, most compassionate self do here? By reflecting on your intentions and values, you can align your actions with your objectives and encourage purposeful, beneficial responses. 6. The body wisdom practice. Your body often knows what your mind hasn't yet recognized. Practice tuning into physical sensations, tension patterns. Where do you hold stress in your body? Breathing changes. How does your breathing shift when you're triggered? Energy levels. Do you feel activated or depleted? Gut feelings. What is your intuition telling you? Recognizing how your body feels helps you identify triggers early and respond before you're fully activated. The 7 life-changing benefits of responding versus reacting. 1. Enhanced relationship quality. When you respond rather than react, you become a safer person to be around. People feel more comfortable being vulnerable with you because they know you won't lash out or make impulsive decisions that hurt them. This leads to deeper trust, better communication, and more satisfying relationships. 2. Improved decision-making clarity. When you're reacting, it's all tunnel vision. You're in survival mode, focused only on the immediate threat or feeling. But when you respond, you create space to see the bigger picture and make choices that reflect your values rather than just your emotions. Responding means your next move comes from clarity, not urgency. This leads to decisions that feel aligned and purposeful rather than impulsive and regrettable. 3. Breaking the cycle of emotional escalation. Reactions often add fuel to the fire, both internally and interpersonally. But when you respond instead of react, you interrupt this cycle. You slow things down and give your nervous system space to settle instead of speeding everything up. That pause, however small, can be enough to shift from escalation to clarity. Over time, these micro-pauses break the pattern of emotional spiraling before it takes over. 4. Faster recovery from stress. Reacting doesn't just impact your mood, it impacts your body. It keeps your nervous system on high alert long after the moment has passed. Your heart races, your muscles stay tense, and you remain stuck in go mode. When you learn to respond, you bounce back faster from stressful situations because you're not adding additional stress through reactive behaviors. 5. Increased self-respect and confidence. Every time you choose to respond rather than react, you're proving to yourself that you have agency and self-control. This builds tremendous self-respect and confidence. You begin to trust yourself more because you know you won't sabotage important relationships or opportunities through impulsive actions. 6. Better problem-solving abilities. Reactive states shut down creative thinking and problem-solving abilities. When you're in fight or flight mode, your brain is focused on survival, not innovation. Responding allows you to access your full intellectual and creative resources to find solutions. 7. Greater life satisfaction and inner peace. Perhaps most importantly, learning to respond rather than react leads to a deeper sense of inner peace and life satisfaction. You're no longer at the mercy of external circumstances or internal emotional storms. You become the author of your own experience. Common obstacles and how to overcome them. The intensity trap. But the emotion is too strong. This is perhaps the most common obstacle people face. When emotions are intense, it feels impossible to pause and respond thoughtfully. Solution? Start with smaller triggers. Practice the pause during minor annoyances before attempting it during major crises. Like physical exercise, emotional regulation is a skill that needs to be developed gradually. The speed trap. Everything happens too fast. In our hyper-connected world, we often feel pressure to respond immediately to messages, requests, and situations. Solution: challenge the belief that you must respond instantly. Most situations that feel urgent actually aren't. Give yourself permission to say, "Let me think about that and get back to you." The habit trap. I've always been reactive. Years or decades of reactive patterns create strong neural pathways that feel automatic. Solution: remember that neuroplasticity means your brain can change at any age. Every time you choose to respond rather than react, you're weakening old patterns and strengthening new ones. Be patient with the process. The perfectionism trap. I tried to respond but ended up reacting anyway. Many people give up after a few attempts because they expect immediate perfection. Solution: progress, not perfection, is the goal. Celebrate small wins and learn from reactive moments without judgment. Each awareness is a step forward. Advanced strategies for emotional mastery. The preemptive strike, building daily resilience. Rather than waiting for triggering situations to practice responding, build your emotional resilience daily. Morning mindfulness. Start each day with 5 to 10 minutes of meditation or breathing exercises. Stress inoculation. Deliberately practice responding to minor stressors. Evening reflection. Review moments when you reacted versus responded and learn from both. Physical care. Eat healthy foods, exercise regularly, and manage stress proactively. The environmental design approach. Shape your environment to support responding rather than reacting. Remove or minimize triggers when possible. Create physical reminders, like a small stone in your pocket, to pause. Surround yourself with people who model thoughtful responses. Design your space to promote calm and reflection. The systemic approach values and vision. Connect your response training to your bigger life vision. Clarify your core values and how they should guide your responses. Visualize the person you want to become and let that guide your choices. Set specific intentions for how you want to handle challenging situations. Create accountability systems with trusted friends or mentors. Measuring your progress. How do you know if you're making progress in learning to respond rather than react? Here are key indicators. Self-assessment metrics. Reaction recovery time. How quickly do you bounce back from emotional triggers? Pause frequency. How often do you remember to pause before responding? Values alignment. How often do your actions reflect your stated values? Relationship quality. Are your relationships becoming deeper and more satisfying? External feedback. Ask trusted friends or family if they've noticed changes in how you handle difficult situations. Notice the outcomes of your interactions. Are conflicts resolving more easily? Observe others' responses to you. Do people seem more comfortable and open around you? Emotional resilience indicators. Faster recovery from setbacks and disappointments. Less rumination and worry about past events. Greater emotional stability throughout the day. Increased confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. The ripple effect. How your transformation impacts others. When you consistently choose to respond rather than react, you don't just change your own life. You become a positive force in every relationship and situation you encounter. In your family. Children learn emotional regulation by watching your example. Conflicts de-escalate more quickly and resolve more completely. The overall emotional climate becomes calmer and more supportive. In your workplace, team dynamics improve as you model thoughtful communication. Problems get solved more efficiently with less drama. Your leadership influence grows as people trust your judgment. In your community, you become known as someone who can be counted on in difficult situations. Your presence has a calming effect on group dynamics. You inspire others to develop their own emotional regulation skills. This is perhaps the most beautiful aspect of training your mind to respond rather than react. It creates positive change that extends far beyond yourself. Creating your personal response training plan. Week 1 to 2, foundation building. Practice the basic pause technique 3 to 5 times daily. Begin each day with 5 minutes of mindful breathing. End each day by reviewing one reactive moment and one responsive moment. Week 3-4, skill development. Add emotional labeling to your pause practice. Implement the RAIN technique when facing difficulties. Practice active listening in at least one conversation daily. Week 5 to 6, integration. Use the 4P framework. Pause, process, plan, proceed in challenging situations. Begin incorporating values-based decision-making. Start asking for feedback from trusted friends or family. Week 7 to 8, advanced practice. Focus on environmental design to support your new habits. Develop your personal triggers awareness map. Practice preemptive stress management techniques. Ongoing mastery. regular meditation or mindfulness practice, continuous learning about emotional intelligence, sharing your journey and supporting others in their growth. The long-term vision, a life of conscious choice. Imagine a life where you rarely feel regret about how you handled a situation. Picture relationships built on trust and understanding rather than reactivity and drama. Envision a career where you're known for your wisdom and emotional intelligence rather than your volatility. This isn't just a fantasy, it's the natural result of consistently choosing to respond rather than react. The journey isn't always easy, but it's profoundly rewarding. Every moment you choose the pause over the reaction, you're not just changing that single interaction. You're rewiring your brain, strengthening your character, and creating the foundation for a life of greater peace, purpose, and fulfillment. The space between stimulus and response is where your freedom lives. It's where you get to choose who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. This space is always available to you. You just need to remember to use it. As we wrap up this deep dive into the art of responding versus reacting, I want you to remember something crucial. This isn't about becoming emotionless or perfect. It's about becoming more intentional, more aligned with your values, and more effective in creating the life and relationships you truly want. Every single person who has mastered this skill started exactly where you are right now, with the recognition that there's a better way to navigate life's challenges. The fact that you've stayed with me through this entire exploration shows that you have what it takes to make this transformation. Here at the Mind Shelf, we believe that small, consistent changes in how we think and respond can create massive transformations in our lives. The techniques and insights we've covered today aren't just concepts to think about. They're tools to practice and integrate into your daily experience. I encourage you to start small. Be patient with yourself and celebrate every moment you choose conscious response over automatic reaction. Your future self, and everyone whose life you touch, will thank you for the commitment you make today. If this content has resonated with you and you want to continue this journey of personal growth and mental mastery, make sure you're subscribed to the Mind Shelf for more transformative insights. Until next time, remember, between stimulus and response lies your power to choose. Use it wisely.